Hear some wrestling.
One.
Why, hello, everyone, and welcome back to The Anime Club. I'm Nick Knack. With me is the Great Lord Vorn. The Great Lord Vorn.
He went to go do something.
Sorry. Forgot to push back the button to turn it back on.
Oh boy.
I keep on forgetting. I actually have like 3 ways to freaking turn it on and off. Okay?
Realm
Then settle
shifter.
on one.
Realm Shifter.
This is some pretty good art, honestly. I'm still scrolling through this page.
You're welcome.
Yes, thank you very much.
Oh my.
Saki, why are you actually not the one who's disappointing me most in the last few episodes?
Because I'm being a better person.
Welcome back to the Anime Club, folks. I think we're done here.
All right, good. Call the episode.
I will kill you.
Okay, we're done. Let's leave. See you,
I
buddy.
will kill you.
This week we watched Prince of Tennis episodes 1 through
15.
15. With a question mark because it was kind of a mistake. Good job, Seki. You did disappoint me this episode.
Look, other people have made this mistake.
So was it a mistake? Was it a mistake of too many or too few?
Too many. I was supposed to cut the submission at 13.
Dang it! I could have saved some time.
It was 2 episodes.
I guess, getting into it here, do we want to give our quick spoiler-free thoughts?
Yes. But
Why
I'm not
don't-
going to start.
Never mind then. Why don't you start us off, Realm?
It's Haikyuu, but older.
All right. How about Vorn?
It's a sports anime. What can you expect?
Gosh, we're killing it with these spoiler-free reviews lately. Seki.
I love it.
That's great. How'd you love it?
You know, あいつがテニスの天才少年.
We did not watch
The musical?
the
I
musical.
did.
We are not reviewing the musical.
Somehow this series is so popular to have musicals, alternate
Not-
language variations,
I was going to say, not like
live
one
action
musical.
dramas.
There's like 10 musicals, 2
Yeah.
Chinese dramas, you know? Like, this shit is amazing. And there's a sequel series.
I'm actually fairly shocked. You wouldn't think a sports anime would get like that. You wouldn't think. But also, Haikyuu's been on trending in Netflix for the last month.
And Kuroko Basket was really popular for a long time.
So, I can kind of see that. I guess my quick spoiler-free thoughts was okay. I had some major problems with it that I didn't necessarily have with Haikyuu, but we'll get around to those as we move along. All right. Well, after that brief spoiler-free section, I believe now it's time to move into, if I'm getting my order correct here, the OP.
Yeah, so I'm gonna be honest here. There is, so I've seen the entire series, and there are 1 or 2 OPs I really, really like, and this is not one of my favorites. I don't think it was a remarkable OP. I don't think it was particularly amazing, but it was, I think, instrumental entirely.
Yeah, I always give respect to OPs that go the route of all instrumental, but it was just like rock. It's just rock instrumental.
It wasn't spectacular. It was just an instrumental. So same thing with the ending. It wasn't anything special. It just was.
Mm-hmm.
It's literally just there to fill time, which makes me wonder why did they even bother with it, honestly.
Well, I mean, but it's not like a bad opening. It's not like
it's not
bad.
terrible, but it makes me wonder if they could have just saved the time of animating an opening and whatnot.
Well, there's always going to be an opening on an anime. They're not just going to not
it's
put
always
an opening.
best there to save time.
Yeah. And like I said, there are a few later openings that I really like. I think they're super good.
Well, we'll get there when we get there.
Yeah. The ending wasn't spectacular either.
I don't remember the ending at all, which says a lot because I could actually kind of remember the Haikyuu ending.
Yeah, it wasn't spectacular. So,
all right, guys. Art style.
so I mean, it is a unique art style. It's not. It's not like. Well, it's okay. So first of all, it's an older anime, right?
Yeah.
This is late '90s, early 2000s. So it is older, and you can definitely tell in the animation, but I don't think that's a knock against the series because we've talked about it before with older shows. I mean, you're obviously not going to get Demon Slayer quality from a show published in 2000 or 2002 or something.
Definitely not.
Yeah, here's the thing. The problem with what I actually have it is not the art style. It's those goddamn fucking transitions.
I know exactly.
Yeah, the Microsoft PowerPoint, like 9 boxes spiraling from cross or whatever. Like transitions in every time you look at a court, and the sound behind them's like. Yeah, it's not the most sophisticated. It's not the best.
I don't remember any of the soundtrack on this one, but I remember that sound design, like at the very, like when they were doing that, just like
it's a very old sound design. Like this is dated. If anything, the sound design is what I would call the most dated part of this. But I will say the animation itself, like the drawing, sticks almost 1-to-1 to the manga. Like it is identical pretty much to the way the manga artist drew it. And it is unique.
Which keeps it very, like what you said, unique to the manga or whatever. So that way, like most of these anime, at the time, they would stick as close to the manga as they possibly could.
Yeah, and when they didn't, there was that case of like, the Sailor Moon Gundam art style that was like really popular around that time, that like they all looked kind of generically the same. Like as if they were
you could face swap a lot of the characters.
Yeah. I mean, the eyes are a little weird, but like I love this anime, so I don't care.
Mm-hmm.
I know Nick Nack has expressed issues with height differences.
Okay, yeah. I'm gonna get there.
Isn't that more so to do with like problems of like artists going off model or whatever, or is it just...
No, my problem is that like you have the 7th graders and you have everyone above the 7th graders. Everyone above the 7th graders are all the exact same height, the exact same like look. They all have that more mature look. Then you have the 7th graders that look like they're in freaking 2nd grade.
Well,
but you're right. I didn't even bother to think about that. And like I understood it was just because of like the age difference, so it was likely different for some of them. But
yeah.
The fact now that you mention it, like all of them were the exact same way.
Like it's only if you get like one character that's that short, but they were all that short.
Well, yeah, all the 7th graders are really short. And all of the, 8th and 9th graders are a lot taller. There are standouts, of course, people who are like taller than the rest of the cast even, and then people who are short no matter what. But I mean, I think a lot of that, though, like I said, this is pretty similar to the manga, and I think a lot of that was supposed to show like a difference in the manga between like, characters who are supposed to like, because they're trying to make the point that like some of these characters are really, really tall, and because of that, you can't do certain things in tennis if the other player is really, really tall because it'll play to their advantage.
It would be one thing if it was like just T.H.E. then, but every single 7th grader had that same stature.
Oh, yeah.
It was supposed to be like some age differential, but it was still like, it felt like it was treating me like I was dumb and couldn't keep track of the characters' grades.
I don't know. I mean, I don't mind it so much because to me, I kind of saw it as like, beginning to end, like, and honestly, middle school is technically the age when you usually grow the fastest,
Yes. But the difference made them look like adults to 2nd graders. That doesn't happen in middle school quite that much. Not with everybody.
I was gonna say.
Okay, you have your occasional guy who by the end of middle school and into the 9th grade has a full-blown beard in his bald.
Oh, I was gonna say me, because I've been about the same height since 7th grade.
And then you've got people like that by the time they get through high school or get to high school, they're still
or
tiny.
Yeah.
or people that peak early and never change.
Yeah, I mean that's fair, but I think that in this case that I mean obviously it's the author's drawing style, and like I get that you have issues with it, but in the manga it is the same. The height differences are very stark.
See, I hate that. That's like, it takes me out of it every time I see it.
I don't have an issue with it because I've seen the same thing in some other manga and anime, so
And
it's
I'm
not.
sure if I saw it there, I'd have issue with it there as well. But
Yeah.
here, especially because they make such a big point out of the seventh graders and being younger in the eighth and ninth graders, it's just bugging to watch.
Don't the ninth graders kind of feel like miles high?
No.
No.
So if you actually look at like the listed heights for the characters, because they do list like the heights and stuff in the manga, like talk about it. Not a single one of the ninth graders is, I think, taller than me by any more than a couple of inches, and several of them are shorter than me.
Wait, then how tall are the adults then?
The adults aren't that much taller, but you also have to think that like adults aren't often taller than high schoolers. High schoolers do tend to kind of hit about peak height within a couple of inches. So, and ninth grade is freshman for us.
Yeah.
So it's middle
But
school for them, but it's freshman year for us.
Yeah.
But this was like, even the eighth graders were like that.
Yeah.
Like, there was no visual distinction between the eighth and ninth graders, and that's where it should have the most diversity in height.
Yeah.
In that, in between the middle and middle school.
Well, I mean, but ninth grade is still middle school for them.
Right, but we're saying is that there should be a bit more diversity in the height.
Yeah,
anyway.
I know.
It was tall
I know.
and second grader. Like, that's how I see in other anime, the same exact height, same exact like stature in elementary schools. That's how I see them drawn there. I've seen anime take that for middle schoolers, but generally that it then incorporates that style and that standard to all middle schoolers, not just seventh grade. It's weird. It's like two conflicting art styles in order to make a point, and I don't think the point worked very well.
I mean, like I will say that they do talk about the fact that like the regulars are tall, like that. It's not that like every person of that age is that tall, but I mean you have to think that this is a group of people that are tall, and that has been said because it's good for tennis, good for what they're doing.
I think we should move on. I feel like we're rambling on this one point.
Yeah.
All right, moving on here. The animation overall, what did you guys think here?
It was nothing particularly unique to me about it. It just felt kind of like, I don't know. Nothing really stood out to me for it, even though it's supposed to be unique, I guess.
My problem with the animation came from the fact that they were doing the same things every single episode for at least the first
Okay, so
3/4 of the. Oh, go ahead.
Oh no, I was just gonna say I did Google it to check the date. So it is the anime was published in 2001. I mean, make of that what you will. It vaguely kind of reminds me a little bit of Dragon Ball. Just in the quality of the animation. It is vaguely reminiscent of like what Dragon Ball looks like.
Mm-hmm.
I will say. And I think that, in terms of quality, that's probably a time period thing in that case.
I don't have an issue with the quality. The quality just in general was fine for the time period. It was just and this is a little bit to do with the story, but it becomes repetitive in watching the animation when tennis game, because each swing is basically animated similarly, if not the same.
Yeah.
So,
well, I mean, but there's not really
especially in like tennis where it's just a back and a forth, it does begin to get a little bit stale animation wise quicker than you would see in other.
But also,
even of the time period though.
But also that is partially a feature of it being tennis. It's not the most exciting sport. I love tennis actually, but Would it help if I told you the studio? I don't know studios, so it doesn't matter to me.
I mean, if you know it, you're welcome to say it.
Like I said, I looked it up, so it's Trans Arts and Production IG.
Oh, I've heard of Production IG.
Yeah,
They're
I don't
still
know.
doing stuff to this day. I don't know. I don't off the top of my head. I can't name what they're doing, but yeah,
I'll
I
take
know.
a
I know
look,
who
but
they
I
are.
don't think
It's not going to be too relevant. This is so far in the past.
Psychopaths.
Makes sense.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
no.
don't,
Much of it, it's older, so it gets passes in some.
they do Haikyuu.
Okay. So,
Okay, that's actually really funny.
You know, that makes
And they
that
did
lends,
Kuroko no Basket.
that lends more credence to my statement that it's just Haikyuu, but older.
Wait, they did Kuroko no Basket, Haikyuu, Prince of Tennis, and Ace of Diamond, which is a baseball anime.
so the studio does a lot of sports animes, likely from the success of whatever their first successful sports anime was.
Which would have been Prince of Tennis.
Yeah, so this getting as big as it did likely is why they still do sports anime.
Yeah, I'm sorry. That was just hilarious to me. I didn't expect to find like all of the sports animes listed on here. They also did Attack on Titan, but that doesn't. I've never seen Attack on Titan, so that doesn't matter to me.
But yeah,
I mean, the animation's nothing special, is the point. It's unless you're really into tennis, the tennis scenes are pretty boring unless they're using some sort of special shot, because in tennis there's only so many things you can do.
yeah, and I get it. That's kind of a limitation of the premise and the time period. Because in a modern tennis show, I can totally see them not reusing as many frames. So it might like Haikyuu. I can't exactly call Haikyuu nearly all that like or not Haikyuu. I mean volleyball any more exciting than tennis to watch.
Yeah, but there is a little bit more option in volleyball because you have more characters, more things.
I think there's just more option in modern animation, but I can't fault them for that. I just think that as a viewer, it's not a very thrilling experience watching in sequential order. If this were like a weekly show I was watching as a kid and I enjoyed tennis, it'd be like, oh, another week of animated tennis.
Yeah, no, that's fair. I mean, it's tennis. It's not a super popular sport to begin with.
Mm-hmm. Well, anime got popular, and I assume it probably had something to do with your animation block on whatever channel. Like whatever channel it was showing on in Japan when it first came out.
I'm sure.
I have a feeling that's where a lot of its popularity came from.
Yeah, I'm sure. And like, it was a popular manga. The manga was quite long.
Mm-hmm.
40 volumes, 40 something.
I guess with that, do we want to move into themes and story?
Wait, hold on. I do want to point out the last thing I had an issue with. It was that the doubles scene with like the other team and like that. What like when they actually got serious, the other side.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, like that just really annoyed me, but that's pretty much just showing its age right there. That's what they enjoyed at that time. It's the purple, they turn them purple and like a dark shade purple and like they crisscross.
Oh, that's actually kind of a trope more than anything else.
Yeah.
Like, it's an animation trope, but I do know what you're talking about there.
Yeah, I just don't like the animation but that is something just showing it's old.
Yeah. I mean, I think anything that's kind of like old can certainly be attributed to its age, and if we were maybe discussing it at the time, we could criticize it, but also there's nothing we could do in retro to make animation better in 2001.
Well, no, we can't. So just
I'm Machine.
I can't fault them, but like if I'm just saying whether or not someone's going to enjoy it, I feel like that is a major factor.
Yeah, it also doesn't stand up well to the fact that we watched it alongside Demon Slayer.
Yeah.
No, it absolutely doesn't.
I've gotten myself a better matchup by maybe matching it with Naruto or Get Backers. And if I'd matched it with Get Backers, I bet you would have liked the animation a whole lot more.
I thought the animation of Get Backers was just fine as far as fights go for the time.
I mean, I think in general, though. Because you didn't like the color palette for Get Backers.
Yeah, I didn't like the color palette.
Yeah.
But also the color palette was very reminiscent of the Fate color palette, so I didn't like that either. But this, as far as animation goes, when I'm comparing it to better animation, I'm comparing it to Haikyuu. But again, I'm not gonna. I'm not going to knock the show, like say it is a terrible show because it's terrible animation. For the time it was good, but whether or not someone will enjoy it, I feel like the animation does hinder it in the modern day.
Yeah, that's fair.
It dates it. That's how I'll put it. It dates the show.
Yeah.
Where some shows from that time period, it doesn't necessarily date the show. Okay. Themes and storyline, then. We can move on, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, okay, this is like textbook sports anime. I'm not gonna lie. This is textbook sports anime. Like, there's, rival of the week. The older players are kind of better, but only because you haven't experienced players like that, and you just need to practice and develop a special move to defeat them.
I mean, there seems to be like a bit of like always try your best kind of thing, like pretty typical shonen stuff. Pretty typical.
Yeah, I mean, this is what I would say is like a textbook kind of like originator of the sports shonen genre. I mean, this is pretty old, and there weren't a whole lot of really famous sports anime before this. I mean, this is
like, wasn't the like when did Eye Shield 21 come out for reference? Do you know?
I can take a quick Google, but I will tell you that the Prince of Tennis manga came out in the mid to late 90s, and then the anime came out in 2001.
I think that my problem with the storyline, just in general, was that it felt kind of repetitive, for most of the series, because it kept being like, here's today's tennis match, here's today's dick. T.H.E. Zen is also being a dick, except he's the main character, Sama, so he can win.
Eye Shield 21 actually came out in 2002.
So
it actually came out after this. The manga was 2002, and the anime came out in 2005, which was when Prince of Tennis ended.
Okay, interesting.
Yeah.
So it probably followed a lot of the same like stuff as Prince of Tennis. Prince of Tennis seems to be like kind of like not really the gold standard, but the rule that most sports anime shonen seem to follow, I guess.
Yeah, because it is, I would be hard-pressed to name a shonen before Prince of Tennis that reached the same length or height of popularity or got like a long-running anime series, because Prince of Tennis did end up almost 400 chapters. There's a second series. It was 42 volumes gathered. It's, 200 episodes plus the second series.
You meant sports anime, right?
Yes. Did I say something else?
You said shonen. And I was like, so many shonen.
Yeah, no, sports shonen. I meant specifically because I'm an idiot. Yeah. So I just Googled sports anime, and it says that Captain Tsubasa was probably the most famous, like longer running sports show before this, and then in the 2000s it really came into its own, which makes sense. I mean. And I mean, I love sports anime, and I see there's a lot of like tropes that are very tropey. I need a better word than tropey. They're very stereotypical. Like they're gonna happen. Like that T.H.E. Zen is gonna beat certain people. Kind of what's gonna happen. That the captain's gonna win his match. That this person's gonna win.
Was Prince of Tennis originally published chapter by chapter in a magazine, or did it start out just releasing in a manga?
I believe it was originally published chapter by chapter, but I will run a quick check because I still have the page up, which is...
Because that would make a lot of sense. Just like in the magazine, here's our tennis manga.
Yeah. Okay. It ran in Weekly Shonen Jump.
Yeah. So, yeah. I mean, I understand that it had... I feel like it works better in that format, or better as your weekly cartoon. Weekly anime broadcast.
Yeah, I feel it.
As a series, because it becomes real repetitive real quickly. And that, again, it's all these different elements coming together, right down to the Microsoft animation.
Yeah, I do feel it. I think you're completely right there. I would like to make a comment though that I was talking about the Prince of Tennis musicals, right? To begin with, and I would just like to make a point that there are 22 Prince of Tennis musicals, and they're called Tenny Mew, and they are incredibly popular.
Good for Prince of Tennis.
Good for them. Sorry. I just love the musicals, and I wanted to comment.
There was a particular arc that I thought was decent. It was the I did like the doubles.
Yeah.
I did like the double because that was the only one where it felt like, and we'll get to it later when we talk about T.H.E Zen, I'm sure, but it's the only one where I felt like T.H.E Zen even had a chance of losing.
Yeah, and I think I mentioned this to you privately, and I feel like this this doesn't happen as much in modern sports anime because they've kind of figured out that they need to make it like harder for the character from the very beginning. But in Prince of Tennis, he is very much like he's very powerful. There are people on the team that he can't beat at the moment, but all the people he's matched up against in at the very beginning, like he can definitely beat. Like it's not like he there's no danger of him losing necessarily, and he does lose, right? There are parts where he loses, so I do want to make that clear. This entire anime is not just going to be him absolutely winning everything.
Like there was the one episode like decently early into the series. I forget what the rival's name was to T.H.E Zen, but it was like the super analytical guy. I just can't
Inui.
remember. Yeah, Inui.
He makes the Inui juices,
Yes.
which
He
we
does
will
that once during the entire thing so far, but
it becomes that becomes like the biggest running gag in the whole show is Inui juice, and it starts showing up like every other or every third episode, and it makes for the best filler arcs that are hilarious. Like
yeah,
I
I've
think
heard you
that's the
rant
one-
and rave about how great the filler arcs are in this series.
Yeah, like I don't normally say that about like anime in general, but Prince of Tennis really blew the filler out of the park. Like it's better than the main anime sometimes.
That's what I'm holding out for here.
There'll be some in the next submission. I deliberately cut it so that there would be
Yay.
filler, at least a few episodes of filler in almost everyone, because this show has a tendency to do an arc that's between 10 and 14 episodes, and then separate each arc by 2 to 4 episodes of filler.
With that, do we want, unless anyone has any particular comments on theming, do we want to move on to the characters and everyone's favorite segment?
Let's go.
Echizen is such an emo little shit.
Okay, every time anyone gives him a side look, he decides, okay, I'm going to show off.
Yeah, and then he's just like, mada dane.
He really has a stick up his ass.
He does. And to be fair, he deserves that stick up his ass from his background, but also it's really nice to see him get like pounded into the ground occasionally.
Except we don't, not in this submission anyways.
Not in this
Yet.
section. We will.
Because he's
See
such,
little shit get
he's
taken down a
he's
notch.
He's such a smug asshole all the goddamn time.
My favorite moment in the series is after the doubles when they realize that he had no idea what he was doing with doubles. They like punish him for it. They're like, you fucking dumbass.
Yeah, they're like, how dare you little shit.
That moment I actually laughed at. That's like the
Yeah. No,
Again,
that's fair.
Again, I thought the doubles
Surprised
was
they-
the only moment I actually cared about the characters at all, or thought they would even noticed any of them.
What were you saying, Born?
I'm like surprised they even allowed it to happen because.
Oh, it'll happen more. That's like a major part of the comedy.
Yeah, no, but here's the thing. Because Momo was with him, and I'm pretty sure they know that definitely Momo is not a doubles player.
Well, yeah.
But they didn't catch Momo. They caught T.H.E Zen.
Yeah.
That's
and now,
stupid, 'cause they
well,
should have realized.
but Momo has more experience, and he actually has played doubles in the past, like for practice matches and stuff with other members of his team. Like the whole team has to train in doubles training, and so they do clarify that. But Echizen has never played doubles because he's such a stuck-up little shit. All he does is play singles.
Against the same person every day.
Yeah.
Although you can't deny he still manages to get a fan club together somehow.
Okay.
That was awful.
Every oh my god, I hate Tomoka so much. I hate her so much.
Who was
Okay.
it? There was that reporter lady. I was like,
Oh
why
yeah.
are you getting into a romantic rivalry over a middle schooler with another middle schooler? That's like the
Yeah.
dumbest thing I've ever seen.
Yeah. Well, let's move on to the next. I don't know what it is.
Are we done with characters or?
Oh, I didn't think we started characters.
Oh, we
were
started
still talking about
characters.
plot.
We were still talking about characters, honestly. So let's just continue.
Oh, I
with
thought we were
that, I
talking about
guess.
Yeah.
plot. I don't think we
Yeah.
ever moved on.
I already I did. We did.
Okay.
Yeah.
Come on.
I think you might
Seki.
have tried to, and I interrupted you.
You probably did. Stop doing that.
Well, just move it to Waifu Wars. God
All
damn
right,
it.
all right. Waifu wars. Waifu wars. Waifu wars. This works a whole lot better in person.
Yes, it does. I can't
This
Yes.
is disappointing.
Yeah.
This hurts.
I never do it.
Let's start with Lord Vorn. Do you even have a waifu?
Inui, but only for the fun factor.
That's fair. Vorn would like Inui. Realm.
I have no waifu for this series.
Okay. Knick-knack.
The FBI so that they can arrest that one woman.
Yeah.
Oh my
that
God.
needed me.
You... Okay, well, my waifu is Momo at the moment. Because he's an idiot and I adore him. He is the big dumb.
Big dumb.
Okay, speaking of characters though, I actually really don't like Tomoka and Sakuno and the female reporter. I don't like the way that any of the three of them are written, and I don't like the way that they act.
What was it the first girl's inoffensive, just not.
Yeah,
Does
Sakuno.
absolutely. Sakuno does nothing.
Yeah, like she's not bad, but she doesn't.
She's barely notable outside of the fact that her mother is apparently a coach.
Grandmother.
Or grandmother, and the grandmother doesn't do anything either.
No, not at the moment. Like I said, Tomoka is so annoying to me. I hate her. I hate her so much. Because I think she is a very one-dimensional character.
Yeah.
She has zero development, like zero desires.
Although being fair, so far I've seen every character as one-dimensional.
That's fair. But I mean, I think I'm also kind of speaking from like characters I hate in general over the whole course of the series, I suppose. I just don't like Tomoka. I really like all of the regulars that we meet. I think at this point Inui is pretty cool. I think he's, if anything, I think he may be one of the more developed members of the main cast at this point, just because they focus so much on his match with Inui.
Yeah, I mean, outside of the reporter lady, the only other character I have any feelings on, it's over Echizen, and I hate Echizen as a protagonist. He feels like the Kirito of tennis.
I mean, that's fair. He kind of is right now. He is right now.
Like, jump forward to Haikyuu, the main character, that sucks.
Yeah, he's got like natural talent, but he's never had it trained, so he doesn't know how to use it. Yeah. I feel like the only way that Echizen really improves in the series overall is that once you get a little bit further in, he starts getting actually beaten down. But you don't see that at this point, so he is just kind of, wins everything. Like, whatever.
He's just kind of curb stomping everyone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It doesn't make for a very interesting show to watch episode after episode of.
That's fair, but also, we have only seen 15 episodes, and it is a much longer show.
Yes, but that's like, if this were, again, a weekly show that I happen to be able to watch because this happens to be the time that my parents let me watch TV when I was that young, this would be extremely inoffensive. I wouldn't care. Watching episode by episode by episode, this problem becomes extremely glaring, and I would sooner switch to another show than get farther than the 15 episodes.
I don't know. I mean, I enjoy it, so... I don't love all the characters, I don't love all the parts, but I love this show overall. I mean, but once again, it's the same love I have for One Piece. I've watched all of One Piece. I've watched all of Naruto, so I do kind of love them because I know what happens later, and I know that it's interesting. And I think that for the time that this came out, the first 15 episodes do a pretty good job of leaving off on cliffhangers enough.
I mean, it's whatever, really, though, because there was only really like one cliffhanger that stood out to me, and that was Echizen versus Inui.
Yeah. But
And
even
then,
then, that's like at the height of Ecchi Zen's, like, I'm curb stomping everybody. So my thought wasn't, is Ecchi Zen going to win this? It was, he better not win this. And then he does.
Well,
and then I guess the other thing, I mean, there's only one other thing that I really like kind of was okay with, and that was more so something from Get Backers, but that was they kept the recap down, or the recap time down to like a pretty low, respectable amount, if there was even a recap most episodes.
Sometimes there's this weird thing where they would do like a pre-cap.
Oh my.
Like where they would
that
hit
was
the
what
head
they
and
did.
then
That was what they did with Inui, where they like told us like an outcome, and then they continued on through the episode like normal, and then we get to the same point eventually.
Wasn't that like for every episode opening?
No,
they did a couple,
Not
especially
like
when you get into
that.
like when it's continuing off a previous episode. Sometimes they would do a
yeah, but not
a
every
recap.
episode.
I gotta say that actually became confusing at one point where they pre-capped something, but I was like, did I miss something in the previous episode because it could have been a recap as well? That was a little confusing, but that's not actually something I knock against the show there.
Not fair. I did have a question. So who watched Sub and Dub really quickly?
Oh, go ahead.
I watched the sub, and it was weird though. For some reason, the subtitles wouldn't appear for a while until I had to turn them on manually. So,
I had to turn mine on manually too.
yeah.
Where were you guys watching it?
Hulu.
Verve.
Ah.
I know I
Oh,
had it
no,
on
Hulu,
Funimation,
Hulu.
but I watched it on Hulu and I didn't have that problem.
Yeah, I watched it on Hulu and I had to turn the subtitles on, but I had also turned them off previously for something else. So, understandable.
Yeah, I watched dub on Verve.
So, Nick Knack has heard my complaints about this, but I watched the entire anime. Like, I finished it. I got to the point where I could be sitting in the living room. The show was playing on my laptop in the kitchen because I was cooking, and I could tell who was talking because I recognized the voice actors. Like, I knew exactly who was who. I knew, like, just by the tone and stuff, like, even at low volume. And then I tried to watch the dub, and I viscerally hate the dub so much to me because the dub, to me, just sounds like the exact same prepubescent boy voicing every single role with no real diversity.
See,
to
I
my
didn't
ears.
watch that far into it, but I watched like the first minute of the first episode in dub just to see what it was like because he complained so much about it. I thought it was inoffensive. It wasn't like I watched Get Backers first episode dub and it was hilariously bad.
See, I watched
quality-wise inoffensive to me.
I watched like the first 4 episodes dubbed, and I think it was because I watched so much and I was so used to like the diversity of the Japanese acting cast that I could pick apart. I think it was the fact that I could like identify the voices and pick them apart in the Japanese, and then I couldn't even tell some of them apart at all in the dub at first, and it just seemed terrible to me. I hated it, so I never recommend the dub.
No, I get it. We all have shows like that. I don't know if I'd noticed it going a little bit further and seeing the other characters, but my biggest complaint with the dub was that it was just like, it didn't always sound right in terms of the age, but again, that's not a problem that's exclusive to the dub for me, so.
Yeah.
In terms
of
I mean, that
was just an extra comment that I had to make about the.
Moving on, I guess. Okay, we actually had a few tropes here that we wanted to point out, but anyone want to go first with tropes?
Stuck up his ass genius boy.
Yeah.
Undefeated genius. Yeah, protagonist Kun. Also,
protagonist Kun.
Sorry. Crouching moron, hidden badass.
Which character was that?
Oh,
it was the team.
Yeah, the father.
Okay.
But I didn't immediately identify that though because the father, like you're told he's awesome, so you kind of see it coming.
Yeah.
I associate that with the team that we saw in the last 2 episodes. The team that
No.
Well, because they beat out the second seed.
No, but if anything, honestly, if anything, like out of all the teams in this entire series, Seigaku is the crouching moron hidden badass. If anything, because they are all morons. All of them.
I don't know. I call them
collectively.
crouching badass. I call them crouching badass hidden moron.
Yeah, exactly. That one.
Everyone
'Cause they-
knows they're badasses, but few people know just how moronic they are.
Yeah, that they are just dumb as shit. I mean, it's pretty much every trope that you could name out of sports anime shows up in here.
Mm-hmm.
All of them. Like, this is just tropes tennis. Like,
This
sports
is-
tropes tennis edition.
I feel this is kind of like the grandfather of like sports anime almost.
Well, but that is what it is. So any tropes that we now go in modern days and we say, oh, look at these sports tropes. I mean, this is one of the original manga anime series that they came from that made them really popular. And because of it, it's almost like some of the other shows we watched, like Naruto. Like looking back, like yeah, those are a lot of shonen tropes. Normally, they're better than that in more modern shows, but
I didn't have much of a problem with the tropes because I don't watch many sports anime at all. Like the last one I saw was Haikyuu, so it's not like
Yeah.
I've seen the same things a billion times like I did with Naruto.
Yeah, and Haikyuu is a masterpiece of a sports anime, so
I will say it was the best sports anime I've seen out of my limited ones seeing them.
yeah, and I've seen a lot of sports anime, and Haikyuu is still one of my favorites, but Prince of Tennis is my all-time favorite sports anime.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I love it. But at the same time, I mean, I get it. I get that, it's full of like these tropes that nowadays we look at and we say, ugh, that's so tropey. It's so, it's so stereotypically done. Like there's no spin to it. There's no finesse. It hasn't been finished. Or I mean, is that kind of what you mean, Vorn? Like, I mean, these are pretty obvious tropes and they're not really hidden or finessed in any way. They're just kind of like, hello, we're here.
Pretty much.
I mean, that's fair. The same thing's true of, Naruto, Dragon Ball. A lot of old shows, especially when they're earlier in a genre, end up like that. And I think that's a completely fair criticism. But I think it's also, you have to look at the time period sometimes when you think about that.
I'll send you all a video later, but it's something like, it was like why comedy doesn't work. Like old comedy tends to fall out of, like people don't find old comedy funny. And it's like where when you hear the same joke told enough and referenced enough, you just stop finding it funny.
Yeah,
Or
that doesn't mean that it was a bad joke to
Sometimes it's
begin
bad.
with.
Yeah.
It just means that it's not, it's so overused now that it doesn't have the same impact. And that, I get that, I watched this sports anime a long time ago. I watched the sports anime like 7 or 8 years ago. It was not even that old when I watched it. It was still coming out up till like 2008 because of the second anime.
Free talk. So does anyone want to just lay some thoughts out there, not necessarily connected to any specific part of this?
I like its characters less than I like the ones in Haikyuu.
That's fair. I think that this, in retrospect, I had never made the connection, but it actually does really remind me of Get Backers for some reason, and I don't know why.
I do not see the connection.
Neither do I.
I don't know where I got the connection from, but I was thinking about it, and it was like, Get Backers! So, that's a thing.
The only slight thing I could maybe see is like the art style in some areas is similar, but even then, that's kind of stretching it for me.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. My brain's weird.
I don't know. I mean, I can't call it a bad show because it's kind of tough to say now, and I can think of contexts where this show I could totally see how it got the audience it did.
It's dated and it's niche.
I don't even want to say it's niche because it got popular. I think it's just the specific format in which it got popular is very different than the streaming age.
Okay, so it's dated and it's aimed to a certain genre and a certain style of watching,
Yeah, it's entirely the free, like how it's watched, I think.
Yeah.
You could totally, because like what Nick was saying, you could totally, I could totally see someone watching this like disconnected from the rest of the episodes because of the way the format works. Like, unless you came in like the middle of an arc, you could sit down and like totally understand what was going on already.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Which, you know, I mean, I personally think that makes for like some very interesting anime, but I also know that like it's that kind of disconnects the story at times when you've like seen one match and you haven't seen another, and then you go watch an episode that comes out like 5 weeks later.
It would be like if I tried to have you guys watch 15 episodes straight of Pokemon. You'll see a lot of tropes. It'll start to get real tiring after a while. And unless you have a connection to the series, it's
or worse yet,
rough.
Actually, worse yet, try and roll some dice and pick one episode from each series of Fate that you know.
I have straight up never made it past like 3 episodes of Pokemon in a row.
Yeah, you don't binge that series. That series is entirely, I'm just going to throw on a random episode and see what goes
like,
this week.
I can watch Pokemon when it pops up on like Saturday mornings on
Mhm.
Disney XD or whatever. Like I can turn that on and be like, oh, Pokemon Sun and Moon, whatever the fuck's coming out right now. I don't know at this point. You know, I can watch an episode of that and it doesn't matter where I am because it's the same thing. But you know,
but there are series that just don't lend themselves well to binging, and I mean actual like binging as in watching episodes in a row with a frequency, not watching them all at once. That can get even worse with a series like this, I think.
Yeah.
And I think most of anime has embraced that one continuous storyline thing.
Yeah.
Whereas I don't think Prince of Tennis, due to its age mostly, I think, but in the age in which television was at when this was made, I don't think it did. So, and I can't fault the show for that because that's just the context I'm watching it.
Mm-hmm. I mean, if anything, I'd say that, you know, my final thought before we give our ratings is that actually to anyone who thinks, who looks at Prince of Tennis and says, oh, tennis, anime, I might be interested in that, I would actually recommend going on Netflix and, you know, you're going to have to watch subtitled anime anyways, no matter what you watch, because it's in Japanese, unless you specifically go for the dubbed, in which case I can't help you. But actually, give the 2019 Chinese drama a try, because they really condense down a lot of the like long drawn out things, and they make it a lot more obvious that he's not the end all be all from the beginning, even though they do stick to the same plot and basically the same events. It's just everything's a little bit more put out there and condensed because the episodes are a little longer and it's live action, so it's a little bit easier to understand, and it kind of makes it more interesting because you're not necessarily looking at repetitive animation.
No Chinese drama!
Oh my god, Vorn! Not every Chinese drama is a fucking harem conspiracy. There are
Oh no, I mostly just
all
said
like
that for
300
Nick
episodes. Yeah.
He's joking.
Yeah.
Yes, but they are not all 300 episodes, and I would actually say that I would recommend the new Chinese drama or even the old Chinese drama, because there are 2. But the new one's on Netflix and it's easily subtitled, so it's, you know, really easy to watch. And it's
the tennis
really
might be more interesting too, because part of the problem with this series was the animation, the older animation reuse style that was often used around the time didn't necessarily lend itself well to the sport.
No, the tennis is more interesting in the live action. So I mean, that's maybe my final thought for Free Talk is, I mean, if you look at a show and say, tennis, anime, go watch the Chinese drama. It's shorter, it's easier to watch, it's more interesting. I love it. So
you want to give it a rating? This series, not the drama.
Yeah. So I mean, for Prince of Tennis, I mean, I'd give it, I mean, I obviously give it a 10 out of 10 because I think it's fantastic. You know, I love it. I think it's super interesting. But I will say that Tenny Mew, the musicals, both Chinese dramas, and the live action movie would all get higher ratings from me. Just because I think this is a lot easier to watch in a live action format than it is in an animated one. And I'll be honest there.
So the 10 out of 10 is entirely a nostalgia 10 out of 10.
Yeah, I would recommend watching it as a live action, but unfortunately I couldn't suggest that.
So nostalgia out of 10 for you.
Yeah.
All right.
So Realm.
I don't know, really. 5 out of 10. There are some things that are okay, but most of it is pretty meh.
Vorn.
As most of you know, I don't enjoy sports anime that much.
You don't enjoy anything that much. I'm just being
Yeah,
honest.
great. Yeah, but like this right here, this is... It's not bad, but it really isn't great. And if I wasn't required to watch this, and if I didn't know what was going to come in terms of comedy, I would have probably just dropped this after like the first 5 episodes. Really?
Does this at all change your opinion on Haikyuu?
Yeah.
Yeah, Haikyuu is definitely better. Definitely better.
Okay, so retroactively raising Haikyuu's score terrible to okay.
Yep.
So that's your rating for Prince of Tennis, is retroactively raising Haikyuu's score.
Yeah, this is
The
irritable,
response.
which is freaking, I don't know, 3 out of 10.
That's fair.
I am just only considering these 15 episodes, though. I have absolutely no
Fair.
idea besides like the comedy aspect of what else might come. So
Yeah, I have actually forced, I think, Vorn, maybe Realm, and maybe Knick-Knack to watch 2 or 3 of the comedy specials that appear later in the series.
You've
Prince
shown
of
clips
Billiards.
to me.
Yeah, so, they do actually have like a vague knowledge of like some of the comedic aspects later on. So I get it.
So I guess my rating. I didn't like it. I didn't hate it though. It was boring most of the time, but I can see the context in which it would be a little bit more interesting. The early episode, like the first episode or 2, was fine so that's why I can kind of tell it's a better week by week series than day by day or even episode by episode.
Mhm.
So I give it a 5 out of 10. It's average.
All right, so are we wrapping it up now?
Yeah.
Oh,
I was gonna say,
we
Give
need
your rating.
announcement, don't we? Wait,
What-
we already did announcement of
Didn't
that.
Realm give his rating?
I gave my rating, yeah.
Oh,
yeah. So yeah, I guess just finishing it off here. The next episode to come out is going to be either, I don't know off the top of my head, Death Parade or Snafu
Snafu.
Season 2.
Yeah.
We'll do one of the two. Is it Snafu? It's
Yeah.
Snafu. And yeah.
Yeah.
See you
Yeah.
next time,
Yeah.
everybody.
Try harder, everyone.
Okay.